So then we are back with more understandings from the time of the Second Tabernacle services, where we find the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Tzayelic lineage, so then we can understand the time of the end. As per Yeshayahu the prophet, we find layers of understanding of the spring feast, the autumn feast, and also the returning of the cities of the Messiah laid waste for many centuries. As we read then Yeshayahu the prophet, let's then understand what's coming in the future, because via this prophet we can find the very understanding of the time of the end via then the autumn feast. As it was told before, the spring feast was completed, and that's why we have then 4 recorders of the completion of the spring feast. Besides these, let's then read what's going on in the world, because there are lots of skirmishes amongst the nations, and they are trying to themselves to set up a system of fixing of an old system that truly does not make any sense regarding then the time of the restoration period. What's going on in the world then? Let's evaluate, starting with the most prominent, China. What is going on? There is then Alibaba, the new Chinese system, the most prominent and richest. It is in the United States. But let's then evaluate what they are trying to do. Firstly then, there are some benefits coming from this system, as mentioned before. Later, I'm going to talk more of these, but then previously I had mentioned quite some time ago, more than a year, that this Chinese system would bring lots of benefits regarding their own. And sure enough, read these, then there is a travel agency, or then a travel line of benefits using then Alibaba system. That's the first. The second is then there is a huge push for payments via online using telephones. This is where then mostly of the understanding of Daniel the 12th chapter, where knowledge would increase. This truly is the perfect example of increasing of knowledge that Daniel was speaking of. For the purposes of trade, there are many links established with Alibaba and other partners, and there is also the American company that makes telephones and computers. They are joined and they are being extremely prosperous. So then, let's evaluate what's going on then with Great Britain. Truly they are advancing forward as far as we can understand of the economy, but there is a problem. In both nations, Great Britain and United States, they are trying to revive and protect and stabilize a system where it was involved with 1,000 years of deceit. During this time, nations should try to establish a reason or reasonable way of stabilizing the system where they are working at. But the problem is, if they are not making these systems available online, then later the problems will surge in a much more exponential way. So let's understand what China is doing. China is part of the Eastern system, a system that started with Shaul the Shaliach. He was then obviously teaching his people and informing them that the spring feast was completed. Where? In Asia. Read the holy instructions. He was not in Asia Minor. He made his runs and his travels. It was more than 4. In the regular translation of the Greco and the Romans, they made only 4 journeys of Shaliach Shaul, known as Apostle Paul. He made many more, because the lifespan from the time he had the understanding of the completion of the spring feast until his death were many years, and every time those years they had to go to Jerusalem and then participate of the feast. So there were more, way more than 4. And then during this time, where you find then banks being linked with system, You find then financial institutions becoming more online. So what then Great Britain should do? Obviously, besides of working on their own problems, they should make what China is doing, because these facilitates later when the new system is launched, as far as the investment icon and the whole financial system tied up to a computer. Then later on it's going to become extremely overwhelming. So then, as we understand what China is doing, what's going on? Well, they are uniting then the area of payment with the telephones. This makes a person extremely mobile, where a person then can go to work and then stay on a train or on a bus and do trade via their own telephones. These generates more packages, generates more than for the companies to work with. What else is going on in the world? Then you find this relationship of the Chinese company, the American company, extremely profitable. So then, Alibaba then has come up with their own payment, or Alipay, and then they are joining with this American company and becoming a very strong partners regarding then the new system. And that's how it's going to be in the very near future. Understandably, when you begin to use then the new system, credit cards are nearly obsolete, because the whole works, you can understand the entire system via your own telephone, as long as you are updating it often. Not only this, but then Bitcoin, or then what China is coming up later on, is then a virtual monetary system of China's very own, where then transactions can be done and exchanges can be done also using online systems. But China has the forward motion of the situation, because they have not yet released a way of doing trade and also exchanges via the telephone directly with the Bank of China. That's what's going to make China then the utmost and the first in the world. And they already are. They already have 57% of the entire global market. So it doesn't take much for a person, if they are doing this, if they are, and they truly are the 57%, what would be the next step? Is a direct link with the system of China via your telephone. And then the rest of it is a situation of gathering taxes properly. That's where then the economies of the nations then are going to then recovering. It's via the online system. The nations are doing the contrary. They are trying to control once again the printing machine, and they are trying to make sure people they have confidence. This is old junk. It's not going to work this way anymore. It's no longer governments trying to control the money and then printing out more money, expecting then the owners of industries to take on some confidence. This is old junk. It didn't work. They have to have a way in their own system to make it online, so then people they get excited in buying it and then exchanging it, and the whole situation done with the telephone. As people they do this, as they gain confidence of doing this new system, then they want to invest. And the Chinese system is the best investment at this time. That's why US simply can't come out of this huge lake of mud where they are stuck in. They simply can't come out of it. They do some work over there, they do some work over there, and do some printing there, and then volatility, and then goes back to the same junk. But China is leading the way by doing this, as nations then they have what to invest on. The question is, what people of the world can invest in the United States? There is not much they can invest on. Yet they are playing around with the printing of money without making these systems available online via your own telephone. This truly is what is going to bring then the recovery, because it is directly related with the new system of investment. So then, since Great Britain is having a talks with EU, we understand the EU is nearly bankrupt. They are not stagnated as far as understanding this system, but they want to implement their own ways of managing the economy, and it's not working. Germany is not working, Italy is not working, the Greco country is not working, and the West is not working. What is then the understanding of the situation is? What is the East doing? It is precisely then the relationship of the Chinese system and the American company. They are making it online, making it faster. So this truly is the first situation. What else is going on in the world? Chinese then is going to head the UN's telecom agency. Do they have any understanding what this means? China is already then driving the top of the telecom agency of the United Nations. And do you have any idea where they're going to be heading towards? And then, obviously, this entire understanding leads us then to Yirmiyahu the prophet. When you read Yirmiyahu, you find there some roots, trade routes, ancient trade routes. And these we should then read because China is reviving these more than thousands of years of trade. And if you take the global map, you find then China has what they name as the Silk Road and the Maritime Silk Road, or route. You find then going from China, many countries of the Middle East, going through Arabia, and then going through Europe, then back down to Africa, India. So this is what's coming on. Even the biblical times of routes, those trade routes, they are returning. So this is what's going on. As far as we can understand, there is a halt as far as what the Kingdom of the North is doing. Because of Ukraine, for a short time, they're going to be a real pain in the neck. Because what is preventing then the Soviet Union of becoming this military power is then the lack of unification of the old Soviet Union. And they must return at some point in time. We understand the West is not doing very nicely. What is going on is 6 years of printing of money. And at some point, and they are halting this project, and at some point it's going to get rough again. And until then, the Soviet Union comes as a whole, then we are going to find that the Soviet Union is strengthening itself. And there is another point. Once they do this, then there is a mixture of Belgium and then the Congo. Also is another link. Because believe it or not, China must link yet its system with the Congo, and then linking its system with Europe. Then provides a way then for the armies of the Soviet Union coming down and organizing Africa. It is a bit later yet, as described then in Daniel the 11th chapter. But we know the formulas. We understand these systems via online must be improved in every nation. So then when the system is in a final stage released, they don't have to scramble around to get their own systems updated to match up with China's system. And these should take some roughly 36 months. It's not truly overnight. Though we have some understandings of both of these Chinese and American companies joining up, but then it takes some time for the events of the instructions become then in a forward motion, so then these nations can understand what it means, the system, and then launching it, and then when it does, then develops those events of Northern Africa. And some of them are already in motion. What it lacks at the moment is then arms then being sent to Egypt from the Soviet Union in a substantial way. But with Ukraine holding back, then became a problem. Yet we should be then concerned with what the economies of the world are doing as far as online systems. So then every situation is in line then with the instructions. Then the nations can start making plans for the future. Next time I'm going to evaluate more than the influence of Africa, because many parts of Africa is absolutely underdeveloped. And amazingly, in Congo also is extremely undeveloped. But they are waiting for then when the relationship of Belgium and the European Union, then they are on the same page as far as updating their own systems with China's system. So as you can understand, when you think of Ezekiel, the first chapter, there were so many concocted theories of some people say that it was those were flying saucers from heaven, or then Ezekiel saw some sort of an alien understanding. No, he simply was explaining these events, as we are then explaining, for instance, the system of China, and then Congo and the relationship with Northern Africa, and then later on with the Soviet Union coming down. Each of these are then events, and they are turning or circling or eventing themselves forward. This is what it means then, the machine that Ezekiel saw. Those are synchronisms of events, and Africa is in the very center of it. So when these situations, for instance, with China and the European Union, China, United States, China and the rest of the world, they are lined up, then you understand the Soviet Union joined up together once they were in the past and becoming in the factory of arms for the world. Then you find the Northern Africa joining up with them, Egypt, and then Southern Africa, such as or the southbound area beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, then Congo being joined up with the system. But from what we read from the whole instructions, Congo won't be very developed until the Soviets come down from the north, as it was stated then in Daniel the 11th chapter. As we understand these forward motions, these events, and you understand at the same time each of them working then together as a cogs in a clock, then we are wise in understanding those. In Africa at the moment also are going to be involved with tabernacling on the land of Cush. So each of these must be then in the proper place. So then, as far as tabernacling, what should we be expecting? Firstly then, the world must come out of the 1,000 years of deceit in those concepts that never existed, and then understand tabernacling itself and producing fruit. When the people understand these, then the rest of the prophecies becomes easier. Next time I'm going to evaluate more the influence of Africa amongst these so many events taking place at the same time. So please stay tuned, much more coming.